Well, good day, and welcome back to Max Nave Horsemanship again. Really glad you could join me today. Got some information to share with you. Hopefully, it's going to help you, because some of it actually might come as a bit of a surprise. It was to me when I first found out about it. And I thought, I don't think many people know about this stuff, so I'm going to share it a little too. And, there's a couple of things I want to talk about today that have to do, well, with this saddle right here, because this is going to be the one I'm going to use for in the future. And it's, well, something I'm going to be talking about. Now, before I get started here, I'm just going to apologize for the audio quality today because my wireless system is again not working right. And I'll get it sorted eventually. It's costing me a lot of money and I don't get anything out of this stuff. This is all for you. I'm doing this for you. I'm spending money and time for you. Remember that. Now, some of you are going to be familiar with this saddle. You'll have seen it in a previous video I did where I was saddling the horses for the first time, and this is the one I was using that I dropped in the snow and so on. I also did the same thing on the other horse too. I put the saddle on her, walked her around a little bit, total non-event for both of them, and well, that's kind of the way it should go. But they're not ready yet because they're not old enough, but come springtime, we are going to be doing the first ride on them. And even that might be a little bit quick. Well, we'll see. They will be two by that time, which is old enough for some people. I'm not convinced, but even at that point, we aren't even going to leave the round pen with them. That's about it. We're just going to get them used to having a human on their back and taking some instructions. That's all we're trying to accomplish at that point. But to do that, for the very first ride, I'm going to use a saddle. And I'm going to explain why I'm going to use a saddle. I'm actually going to cover another topic that is very closely related too, so stick around for that one because that's the one that's going to be the real surprise. But why I use a saddle for starting a horse. Well, there's a couple of reasons. First off, I'm not a super good rider anyhow, and I always feel a little more secure in a saddle. And I don't care how good you are, you're going to be more secure in a saddle. Now, if you are planning on ever riding the horse with a saddle on its back, it needs to get used to it. So doing that, it has to be done eventually. And whether you do it before or after the first ride, it's still got to be done. It's going to take just about as long. And there might even be a few advantages to having a saddle on the horse first because, well, before you plunk your butt on the horse's back, it gets used to having something on its back, the saddle. But one of the big advantages of having a saddle on a horse when you start it for the first ride is that should that horse ever get a little bit silly with you, which can happen, hopefully it won't, but if it ever gets silly and you're bareback, the odds are much greater that you're going to come off of that horse. And if you ever do come off the horse, whether it bucks, rears, just does a little zigzag, whatever, anything that can unseat you and make you come off the horse. Well, first off, there's the danger that you might get hurt. Maybe not, depending how old you are. Youngins, you might bounce pretty good. But I don't want you coming off a horse because then maybe the horse could step on you too at that point, in which case, all kinds of, you're not going to have a good day. So for that reason, I don't encourage doing a bareback start. But there's another reason that's bigger and a little more important, is because the saddle adds security and helps you stay on the horse, there's far less chance you're going to come off the horse. So not only is it a safety item, but the horse never ever learns that by acting silly or reacting on instinct alone, that it can get rid of this thing on its back that is putting it in a stressful situation that it's not used to and not prepared for. Now again, if the horse is properly prepared, you've done lots of groundwork, taken your time, odds are very, very good that nothing's going to go wrong. But there's never any guarantees, and that's where the saddle is very important because if you've watched my series of baby step videos, you get a good idea how fast a horse can learn. I'm not a phenomenal horseman. I'm decent. I know the ways to do things that the horse understands, but you also witnessed in every single one of those events, that was the very first time, and you saw how quickly the horse caught on. That's because that's how fast they learn. That's how smart they are. And if they can get rid of you off of their back when you try to ride them for the first time, that sets a precedent, and there's a good chance they're going to do it again. Because they figure, hey, I got rid of this thing on my back, I'm not under this stress anymore, I don't have to be ridden, and well, to them that's a solution. That's just what they need to do to survive. That's all they're doing, they're just surviving. And so that is why I think that always starting a horse with a saddle is a good idea. Starting bareback, like I said, much more likely to come off, and if you do, that horse is bound to learn something bad. You don't want that. But this kind of leads into my next part. Some people like to start bareback, and well, whatever, I don't understand the motives. I think in many cases it's just a case of getting in a hurry to ride. And that's a bad thing. I'm sure there's going to be other problems other than the fact they're riding bareback in that situation. But years ago, I watched a video. He wasn't impressed with bareback pads. And he thought that at the very least, you should be putting a saddle pad under the bareback pad if you're going to ride bareback, because that would help displace weight on the horse's back. And I'd never given that much thought before. And so I thought, well, maybe. Never much of a thought to me. But I actually started doing some math on it. Now, I did not do this scientifically. But what I did was I actually just roughly calculated where your backside and your thighs are going to rest on the horse, the area that your weight is going to be on, and I kind of figured out, well, how much weight per square, whatever you're using, whether it's inches, centimeters, whatever you're doing, okay? The pressure in the per area. You know what I mean? Then I compared that to a saddle. Now this one isn't terribly heavy, but I have another one that I kind of like. It's a little more robust, and if you do have a fairly heavy Western saddle, that can easily reach 40 pounds, 22 kilograms, whatever. You have to add that in. So you add the weight of your saddle to the weight of the rider, and I did all the calculations based on my weight. With your weight it may vary a little bit, but that's not really that important, because wait till I get to where I'm going here. I figured out the contact area. Now it's not the whole size of the saddle. There's a strip down the middle where there is no contact, because you don't want weight on the spine. And this factors into what I'm going to talk about here too, is, like I said, I figured out the actual contact area, not exact, we didn't have pressure pads or anything. It wasn't all scientific, but the difference between bareback and saddle was so extreme that even if my math and calculations were quite in error, there's still a very, very significant difference. About 15 to 1. That's a lot. And so if you like your horse, put a saddle on. Now, I get the bareback thing. I have ridden bareback, and it's a pretty nice feeling having nothing in between you and the horse. But it is something that it's not really that good for the horse. And, well, the other part of bareback is the spine should never have any pressure on it at all. It's not meant for bearing weight, and if it does have any weight on it when you're riding bareback, if your backside happens to hit the spine directly, it's going to cause a lot of discomfort from the horse. And this is where we're going to back up to starting a horse. If its first ride, something like that happens, all of a sudden it's going to relate being ridden to something painful. Not a good thing. You don't want that. So that's why I say always start a horse with a saddle. It's better. And saddle is better than bareback. Now a lot of people say, well, but bareback is more natural. Well, there is absolutely nothing natural about the horse-human relationship. It is something that us as humans have thought that was a good idea, because we had use for the horse. The horse could care less. They would be quite happy without us humans. In fact, they'd probably be happier. So there's nothing natural about riding bareback, and it's actually, well, actually nothing natural about riding a horse or the whole horse-human relationship, period. And riding bareback can be very uncomfortable for the horse. Even if, most horses are quite stoic and they won't show the discomfort, they won't tell you about it, they'll usually be quite polite about it. But guaranteed, using one of these is going to be better. So if you like your horse, put a saddle on, okay? And that kind of wraps up much of what I wanted to talk about today. So if you want a little, get an idea of what it's like, is put your back up against the door frame. Have the door frame so it's just off to one side, so it's on your ribs and the muscles and all that stuff. Push back. Doesn't feel too bad at all. Now move over just a little bit and get that door frame right in line with your spine, and then push back so that your pressure is, all the weight is on the spine. A little uncomfortable. Now, that's not a really accurate way of doing things, but gives you an idea of the difference between having the weight offset and having it right on the spine. The weight right on the spine, not good. Should never happen. And that's why if you ever take a good look at a saddle, you'll notice there's a gap down the middle, always, and there's no weight on the spine itself. Spine shouldn't have weight on it. My goodness. How many times do I have to say that? No weight on the spine, okay? Very important. Anyhow, I think that kind of wraps things up for what I wanted to talk about today, is why I always start a horse with a saddle, so it doesn't learn bad lessons. And why you should always ride with a saddle. Now, I know one more thing here is some of you are going to see that picture in my channel, and you're going to see me riding bareback. Keep in mind, that's a very old picture, and I don't do that anymore. And that was the second last horse I ever did it on. I only did it once after that horse for about 5 minutes just to do a video, so I could show you that it could be done. I rode the horse naked. No, I was not naked. Get your mind out of the gutter, people. The horse was naked. It was completely devoid of any tack whatsoever. There was no bridle, no saddle, no nothing on it. And neither me or that horse had ever done that before. It was a first, and it worked well, but it was simply a demonstration of how little you need. And I think I've talked about that before, not that long ago, is you don't really need a lot. And if you do your training properly and thoroughly, you get a good enough communication going with your horse, then, well, that's what you can do. I'm not saying you should do it, because even that was probably close to 10 years ago, and it's been that long since I've ridden a horse bareback, and I don't think I'd ever do it again, even if it was the right horse. And, well, the one you see in that picture, she was one of the few horses I ever sat on that we just fit really good together, and I felt comfortable riding her bareback, but I doubt very much I'll ever do it again. Simply because of the fact that, well, once I did a little rough math and figured it out, I realized it's not a good idea, not good for the horse. So, the bareback versus saddle, and starting a horse with a saddle. The two main topics of today's video. I hope you got something out of that. And go have some fun with your horse and be nice to it. Have a good day.